doctor comes in and starts looking around. I remember grabbing your leg and just, I'm so sorry, guys, but there's not a heartbeat.
Nourish the roots, and the branches will grow. And in time, they will bear fruit.
Well, welcome to one of our late night chats. We've got Alea to bed. So
Took a long time tonight.
yeah, it took like an hour and a half. That took a while, but that's why we're able to both be on here tonight. And who knows, if she wakes up, maybe we'll be lucky enough to have her come and join us. But today I have a very special guest. This is my wife, Amelia. We've been married for a little over 4 years now. Mm-hmm. Been the best 4 years of my life. It's been amazing. We've been able to create a little family over here in Cache Valley, Utah. We started off with Mr. Enzo. And we have...
He's our dog, to clarify.
Oh, yeah.
We like our baby, but just clarifying.
He's our dog. And we have our Alea, our little girl. But today I wanted to talk about another family member that we don't get to be with every day. A few years ago, before we had our little girl, we had a little boy, and we named him Sonny. He didn't get to be a part of our family here on Earth. So it's a heavier topic for us, but we've been able to kind of find some healing through time, and I wanted to go through our story of what we've gone through, what it was like, and kind of how we've found some healing from that. So I wanted to bring Amelia on today and to help share our experience. So Amelia, if you could share with us kind of the background of our story and kind of just work through that for whoever's listening, and obviously I can walk along with you as we go.
Yeah. Man, I'm already a little teary. I think it's just because we've been able to talk about him so much, but to kind of go through everything, we have a box of his stuff, and I've been unpacking it tonight, and so I think I kind of just reliving through it all, so bear with me, because I feel like I'm going to struggle a little bit. It'll be 3 years?
Yeah, in 2022.
3 years.
Mm-hmm. So 2025, yeah, 3 years. 3
years this year. So I guess, yeah, we were married for a while before we decided we wanted kids. We were both super excited to be parents. Like, I think growing up, that's all I ever wanted, was just to be a mom.
She's a very, very natural mother figure, always has been. She's just always been around kids, and she's always wanted kids of her own.
Thanks, babe. So we decided it was time to have kids, and really, really excited, but really nervous. So we decided to right before, just take the leap and go on an adventure. I wanted some time, just me and Christian, and
because we wanted time to just get out and go before having kids.
Yeah.
And so we just decided to, I don't know, was adventurous and fun. And so what did we choose, babe?
Well, we had a couple options. We were first going to go to South Africa, and then I can't remember where else.
That's right. And then we realized that there was going to be orangutans there, walking through our backyard.
I don't know if that was the only reason, but
that's true.
We did have a lot of prayer in it, and we ended up going to Greece. And if anyone knows me, I'm a little Mamma Mia obsessed, and so we actually went to the island that they filmed Mamma Mia, which is way prettier than the movie, believe it or not. And
super pretty. So gorgeous.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, yeah, we went there. We decided to go. We were in Greece for 2 months, and then we decided the last month, because we had kind of like, we had planned on 3 months. We had like a semester. We were still both in school. So we're like, okay, we'll just go use like these 3 months, be back right before the holidays. It had been like perfect with like Thanksgiving.
Because when did we leave? Was it in August?
Yes, beginning of August.
And we were planning on coming back November before Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, we left, and then we got the surprise right when we got there that we were pregnant.
How did we end up finding out? Like, did you start, I can't remember, did you start feeling sick or
No,
like,
I
how
think
did
I was
you?
just so excited. So I just like kept on tracking and like knew the dates, and we took a test like a couple days after we got to Greece, or almost a week. One of my friends, really good friends, had visited us there, and so I think we had waited until she left to take a test, and then right after we had taken our test, and like instantly the 2 lines, we both were taking it together. And then we called the parents. We're not one to hold it in, and we are super close to both our parents. So we're like instantly, I'm sure it's probably like 4 a.m, right? Like 5 a.m. I don't know, super early because the time difference. We're in Greece there, and they're back here in the States. And so, yeah, we called our parents, and that's where it started. That's where.
Well, it was like 10 minutes later that we called them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we told our parents like 10 minutes after, because we just can't hold stuff in. And then, yeah, I mean, from there, do you kind of want to just talk about your pregnancy or?
Yeah, I think the beginning was just kind of a shock. Like, I think anyone would be. It just doesn't seem surreal, because like something that you've dreamed of your whole life, you're like, we're going to become parents. And it was kind of like a bit of a movie, to be honest. Like, we were living on this island, just had a 4-wheeler to drive around, like had a lot of time together, and we were just enjoying it. I had like the little bit of sickness here and there, but for most part, like I was really lucky, and it was just full of excitement. And we decided the island we were like on was so tiny. They didn't even like, they kind of had a hospital, but it was honestly just looked like a cement building with like, there's a couple times where we like had thought about going to the doctor and like kind of drove by it, and we're like, oh, it just didn't seem like a lot of resources. It's a really small island, and not a lot of people even spoke English there. Like, it was really like authentic Greek island. And so we had just kind of made the decision, like we had talked to a doctor here in Logan, and we were like, we'll just kind of work through them and we'll just wait. And they said it was fine for us to kind of just wait until it'd be almost the like middle of our second trimester that we get home. And so we kind of just were like, okay, I'll get our first ultrasound there. And we decided we'd like hold off on telling the rest of our families. We went, and that day we were so excited because we went down to the town, and I'm holding this little outfit actually right now, but we didn't have a ton of money, but that was like a purchase that we wanted to make, is like our first little thing that we could get for our baby. And so we picked out a little onesie, and yeah, just the adventure of pregnancy began there. It continued. We finished our time in Greece, and we had an amazing time. We did end up telling some people, because my family, my mom, dad, sister, and my close cousin came and visited us, and so we did surprise them there, and that was so fun. It was amazing. I have a video of them on the dock. So we told them, and then we traveled to Italy, where pregnancy continued. Still felt good. Ate more gelato there. Had just time that me and Christian, I feel like we've talked about this so much, huh, babe? Like we feel like we needed that so much, because our relationship, I feel like, got really, really strong there.
We like figured out that we could spend 24/7 with each other.
Literally 24/7.
And I think we maybe got in a disagreement / argument like twice. So I don't know, that really did bring us together, those 3 months that we were together in Greece and Italy.
Yeah. It was awesome. And I think too, like, at least for me, I think I like roller coaster a little bit with my testimony. Like, I've always had that testimony since I've gotten it, but I think Greece and Italy was a time for me to really like sit and reflect. And I realized as like becoming a mom, like what is the most important thing for me to teach my kids? And it's like, I want them to teach them that I believe in Christ and my testimony of the gospel. So I remember really trying to focus on that. I obviously didn't do exactly what I thought I'd do. Like I feel like have a long ways to go, but it was cool to be able to, through that pregnancy, to build my testimony. I remember starting a journal in Greece and then having time to connect with members in Italy. We were in a little small branch because we were in a little small town that was really cool. It's called Castellamare di Stabia. And that was another experience of itself. And we met amazing people there. There were examples. So I feel like this whole experience, the reason I think we love talking about it, I think it's part of Sonny Stories because it was like built such a foundation and such an amazing experience to kind of go through pregnancy and Then we got home. And it was Thanksgiving time. That's when we kind of told the rest of our families. I can't look at Christian right now. But Thanksgiving is when the excitement grew. We still hadn't had our first appointment yet. It was like a few days after Thanksgiving. And so we went and we told all of our family. We both have big families. And no one more than I love than our families. And so like sharing that excitement with them, like that even just like grew the excitement more. And then we had our appointment about 3 days later.
And so we go into the appointment to the doctor, and we're super excited about everything. We're ready to see this baby and maybe even find out the gender. I can't remember exactly what we were able to find out at that time, but we go into the appointment, and the doctor has Amelia lay back on her back, and gets out the gel. This is actually the nursing assistant at the time, and I remember the nursing assistant. What do you call them? CNAs?
I'm not sure if it was the CNA or the nurse.
And I remember her like looking at the ultrasound and kind of like rubbing around, like trying to figure out all the different spots and everything. And she kind of gets this look on this face of confusion. And she says, "Hey, I'll just be right back. I'm going to go get the doctor really quick." She gets the doctor, and doctor comes in and starts looking around. And I remember her grabbing your leg and just, "I'm so sorry, guys, but there's not a heartbeat." I just remember being in shock. And I remember Amelia start to just breathe really heavy, just in shock. And I think they left the room at that point just to give us some time, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a blur. That part was.
I think they had left the room to give us a couple minutes, and then they came back and talked us through how things needed to proceed from there. And so we we scheduled a time to go to the hospital because Amelia, it was in the middle of the second trimester, and so Amelia needed to deliver. And so we scheduled the time to go to the hospital. And so Amelia and I, after the doctor's appointment, this is right after we had gotten home from Greece. So we were staying with her parents for about a month before we transitioned to our next home. Sorry, I'm just thinking about the experience that I'm about to share. And we get home and nobody's home. And so we go downstairs, and Amelia lays out on the couch downstairs and is just sobbing, wraps a blanket around herself, is just sobbing. And I'm just pacing back and forth, crying. And about 30 minutes goes by, and we hear a door shut from the upstairs. And this is Amelia's mom. She's expecting to have, a lot of excitement to talk about the baby, talk about the future of the baby. And she comes downstairs to Amelia. And I just remember she didn't say anything, but she just knew as soon as she walked into the room what had happened. I just remember going over to Amelia and rubbing her arm. I'm so sorry, Amelia. I'm so sorry, Amelia. That was really hard to see. Well, I just wanted to have good news for her and be excited with her, but she came home, and obviously we had to deliver the bad news. At that point, when was the hospital?
I think they gave us a little bit of time. They didn't know when he had passed. It obviously hadn't been too long, because he had been growing fine until that point, but I think it wasn't in a hurry, because I remember having a little bit of time and that being really hard to just kind of wait. Because I knew I'd go in at night. They had to induce me because my body wasn't obviously ready to deliver, so they're waiting to induce me to be able to deliver him. And actually at this time I'm saying him because we know now obviously, but because of that appointment we didn't end up finding out the gender yet, and so we didn't know. We were kind of in the dark about that. And honestly I had a lot of hard feelings because I almost felt like this disconnect. Like I felt like we were so excited for this baby and felt like part of our family. And then as soon as I found out that he was no longer with us, I started to doubt myself. Like, was I wrong? Like, and I started to go through the thoughts of like, well, I actually don't know. Like, I don't know where I believe when babies are born. Like, if he's not born, he's still a part of our family. And I was just really, really kind of dreading that moment where I'd see this baby, and I knew that it'd be hard to see because he was so little, that if I would have any form of connection or feel like he was a part of our family or even real. And so that was a big emotional toll, I think, going up to it and waiting for that, because it was just unknown. I didn't know what to expect, and I think I was just nervous. So yeah, that was kind of like leading up to it. We did end up going back up to Logan. And I remember during that time how many people I realized were in our corner, that were stepping up. And people in our life were really the biggest miracles we saw out of this, and our community and the love we felt. But then I think this is where I kind of saw firsthand what the significance of Mourn with Those That Mourn does. I think you hear about that a lot, but like being on the receiving end of that, it wouldn't have been possible, I think, without everyone. And I think feeling that they truly did mourn with us, like I could see it, I could feel it. And I think that really just showed how together in this life we are, like how we're supposed to do this with people. We're supposed to have each other. God didn't want us to do this alone. Even like alone as like an immediate family. Like there's other people. I think God put us all on earth to help each other and to support each other.
And so, we had gone to the hospital. It was our scheduled hospital date. And I mean, we really just felt the love of our community, our village, because both of our moms showed up, and they showed up for all of the hours that you were in labor. You went into labor for 20 hours, and I think they had stayed at the hospital for, getting you into the hospital, getting you out of the hospital. They stayed there the whole time. And our dads would have been right there by our side in an instant. But we decided just that the moms would be there for you at the hospital.
They came up to Logan though before.
Yeah. I remember Amelia was in the hospital bed. Your dad had come up, and I went and walked out to the window, and I remember seeing just your dad, pacing back and forth in the parking lot because he was so worried about you. Maybe he wasn't there right by your side physically, but he was there. He was worried about you, worried sick about you. And so we had a lot of support, and we felt the love of community. There was a lot of people there that sent us cards and stuffed animals and letters and all these different things to help uplift us.
A blanket. I'm still actually using the blanket one of my aunts brought me to help me get through delivery. They started the induction at night just because they knew I think it would take a while, and can't say it was the easiest time. I think it was just anticipation, emotionally knowing that we were going through this and we wouldn't bring the baby home, and you knew you were kind of in a room. They had put in something on our door, but going into the labor and delivery I think was hard for me because I knew everyone else or most of the people is a completely different situation, that they were able to bring their baby home. And so I think that was a little hard. Went through that, and it ended up being a while. It took a while, and our moms were there for every second, stayed up until it was how many hours later? 20?
20 hours.
And our moms had just decided to leave. We had begged them, go get changed, go get food or something, you need to go take care of yourself. And right when they left is right about when I had felt him coming, and we called them to come back. And I think, they had turned around real quick and started heading back, but he was born before they came, which in the moment it was really hard because we wanted our moms there, but I think having just me and Christian there, just to have a moment to ourselves. So he was born, and that's when we found out. The nurse said really quickly, which I didn't even want to believe the nurse because I think I was just so in denial and I just wanted to hear it from someone else. But he was born, and she's like, he's a little boy.
And you said, I'm waiting for the doctor. Sorry.
I know, she probably thought I was so mean. I was just okay, I'm waiting.
We're not going to trust a nurse right now.
Yes.
No offense to any nurses, but in that state, we needed an absolute official. We were so emotional. We just needed an absolute sure answer that it was a little boy.
Well, we had felt like it was a little girl the whole time, and then when we found out we had lost the baby, my heart, I was like, it's a boy. It has to be a boy. It's our little girl still coming. Our little boy's gonna watch over us. So I was really I need to know for sure, and obviously it's a no-brainer. A nurse didn't need to figure out it was a boy, but
the doctor came in and it's yep, it's a boy.
But then we were able to have our time with him, just hold him and kind of just realize kind of the situation. And I feel like that's kind of when, I think for me and maybe Christian too, it's I felt okay. I feel like I had that kind of calm of he's a part of our family. He's real. This is not just a body. This little boy had a spirit and has the spirit. And so I think that was really reassuring and comforting, honestly. And our moms were able to come not too long after and be able to hold him and see him as well. We have his little box here. The hospital did awesome things where they were able to take memories. We have his handprints and footprints, and they actually took casts of his little hands and feet. They didn't turn out great on his feet. He actually had a little cleft foot. It was like turned in left. But wow, it was incredible to see just like how like tiny a little human can be. He was so tiny, but just like how perfect he had his little hands and you know just like his little body.
And that was one of the more emotional things that happened for me, was seeing our moms hold him. Because I remember, you passed him to me, and I held him for a moment, and a few minutes later, our moms came in. And I remember handing Sonny over to my mom. I remember her just sobbing and rocking him back and forth like, oh, my little boy. And so, yeah, lots of hard stuff that we had to see and that we had to go through. And so, the hospital was really hard for us. But we're so grateful for, again, our moms that showed up for us. Again, our dads would have been right there. The hospital staff was amazing. We kept talking about that for months after at Logan Regional. Their staff was just amazing to us. They had a little community of parents that had lost children, before, kind of like us, where it was more of a stillborn type of birth. And they have this little community where they send you cards, and I think I already said this, but stuffed animals and their stories and all this stuff. And it was just amazing to feel that support from everybody. And so I think that's how we got through the hospital, because I don't think we could have done that alone. So yeah, after the hospital, we kind of had to decide, okay, where do we want to have his burial site? And so we ended up deciding on Bear Lake, and that's a place that's really important to both of us, especially Amelia. So Amelia, do you want to kind of talk us through, why that place was so important for us to choose?
So yeah, Bear Lake has always been somewhere that's super special to me. Growing up, that was my home away from home. We basically have, I guess, a family compound where all my cousins and my grandparents and stuff all are on the same block, and that's where we grew up. And one of the things that we did growing up was walk to the cemetery on Sundays. The view is awesome. You get to the top of the hill, and it's a view of the lake, and it's just the prettiest, most peaceful place. And so that was somewhere where now Christian has been able to join that, and I think that was somewhere that we instantly kind of both thought of, because it's somewhere that's so special. So my parents were awesome in coordinating, just being able to get the lots, and they actually got a couple lots, so they'll be buried next to him, and we'll be buried next to him on the other side as well. And then Shelly and Stan were able to figure out the casket and work with the funeral home. And so that's another instance where we were like, our family just kind of step in and took care of it. And I know, people helped too.
So your parents, we had so much help. Your parents paid for the burial spot. Mm-hmm. My parents were able to get the headstone. And then one of my parents' friends heard about our situation and decided to donate the casket for Sonny. Mm-hmm. So we experienced so many miracles along the way.
Which was obviously a huge blessing and miracle emotionally, but also too financially. We were in a spot that
oh my goodness.
We
coming home from Greece, we had $100 in our bank account. And then
don't take our advice on that, but it was really fun.
Yeah, we spent every last dollar that we could. And And then obviously like this experience happened. And so we were down for about 2 weeks, and then I did DoorDash for like another 2 weeks. So we made like $300 that month. So we had $400 in our bank account. We couldn't afford anything. So our parents really helped us out with that. And my parents' friend, he was what do you call those guys? Mortician. And so he helped us out with the casket just out of the kindness of his heart. And so that was amazing for us. But so the plot was purchased, and we had to wait about 2 days, and the funeral came. And then we got to the burial site at Bear Lake where we were going to bury him. And I remember taking the casket out of the car and walking down that path. It was a slippery path because it was winter. It was just so cold.
So cold.
I remember that, because I had played that song. I remember my fingers just freezing as I was playing it. You held my arm the whole way, and we eventually got to his spot, and we put his casket down, and then we started to sing that song. And that was special to have just both of our immediate families sing that together. It was a pretty short funeral. I think it was perfect time. And then we went back to your parents' house. And that was really, we've talked about a lot of hard things, but that was just another hard thing where we had to kind of sit with that. A lot of people talk about, and I didn't realize it until we went through it, but a lot of people talk about how somebody passes away in their family, and then they have the funeral, and everybody's like surrounding them before the funeral. And then after the funeral, that's when it sets in, when you just have to sit in your grief, and you don't have everybody surrounding you, loving you, and telling you it's going to be okay. And so, but everybody has to go through that. They have to sit in their grief. And so we were sitting with our grief for a long time. I think it was we still had 2 weeks left at your parents' house before we moved up to Logan. I can think back on it, and I see so many little miracles from God, because we were sitting in our grief through. It was about a week in, or maybe even just a few days in, and I remember driving, and then I remembered a dream that I had in Greece, where I remember telling Amelia about it and everything, where essentially what had happened was I had a dream that we had a little baby boy in a hospital, and when we were all finished up with the hospital, we went out to our car, and for some reason it was kind of like a Sprinter van type of thing that we hopped in. And I sat down with this baby boy in our arms. It was in a blue swaddle. He was in a blue swaddle. And I remember looking to my right, and there's Amelia, and Sarah was in the dream. And then I looked to my left, and my grandma is sitting right next to me. And my grandma, at this time had passed. She passed away from Alzheimer's. It was, I believe, a year before. But inside of the dream, I turned to my left, and my grandma's sitting there right next to me. And I remember holding this baby boy and then passing him off to my grandma. And then the dream ended. And I remember having this realization, or this moment of peace, because at the time that I had the dream, I was telling Amelia about it. I said, "Oh my goodness, I think we might be having a boy. I'm convinced it's a boy." Amelia was convinced it was a girl, but I was kind of convinced.
Other dreams you're having that was girl.
Because I had other dreams about a girl.
That's the first one that I had was a boy.
Yeah, this first one that I had was a boy, and so I was telling Amelia about this in Greece. He was in a blue swaddle. I handed him to my grandma. It was great. So my grandma must be playing with him. And then when I had that realization, I realized the dream ended as soon as I handed him off to my grandma. And that was really big for me because that just gave me some comfort, because I knew that even though we wouldn't be able to raise Sonny in this life, we wouldn't be able to take care of him, I knew my grandma was taking care of him. And that was special to me. And so that was just a little miracle that I had experienced along the way. There's all these little miracles. I don't think there's one huge moment that we had, but it's just like they talk about this so much. It's the line upon line, precept upon precept. And a lot of the times they talk about that in the learning, and learning gospel principles and learning something. But here we experienced it in miracles in our grief. We were able to be lifted line upon line and precept upon precept. And then even more special after that experience, when I had that realization, just a couple days later, Amelia's siblings all gave us this picture of Christ with a baby, and Christ was holding this baby really close to his chest. And the sweet thing about it is that baby that Christ had swaddled was wearing a blue swaddle, just like the one that I had seen in my dream. And so I felt like throughout all of this process, there's just so many tender mercies that we were able to see.
It was also just like another realization of kind of like what he was, like we didn't see him in his perfect state. We didn't see him like he would be when he was, if he was like a full grown newborn. But he, in this picture, he had light brown hair, which is completely, like, as soon as I saw him, like, that's what Sonny would look like this, and he had this swaddle and Christ holding him. I think that was like really, like, it touched my heart, and I feel like it brought me peace also. And then like it went along with the dream too. So that was a tender mercy as well.
And so I think these experiences really drive you to one of two ways. I think it could drive you away from God, or I think it could drive you towards God. And for us, it drove us towards God. We immediately just dove into, well, not immediately, actually. I mean, we had to live in our grief for a while, but we eventually just dove into Scripture, dove into Latter-day prophets and apostles' comments on this kind of stuff. And
because it's not talked about a lot. Like,
yeah,
we know,
not.
like, I feel like it's kind of common knowledge in our church that, like, children are always saved, like, right? Like, it's, we knew that Sonny would be okay, but just kind of the knowledge of, like, where does our role fit in as parents? Like, where do we fit in with this, Like, how are we going to have this eternal family that is talked about? And so I feel like that's, like, kind of why, right? Because we didn't really know the specifics. It's not talked about, I feel like, with stillborns a lot.
Yeah, because it's really hard because, nobody, unless you do a deep dive into research, it's hard to know, like, what has been said. And so we had both kind of dove into our research. And Amelia, if you'll just share maybe what you found, and I can share what I found, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, what I feel like my biggest takeaway from this was this quote here, and it's saying, according to the prophet Joseph Smith, the parents of a child who died in childhood will have the joy, the pleasure, and the satisfaction of nurturing them after their resurrection until they reach their full stature of their spirit. So that, like, kind of just, like, answered everything for me, because I think that was, like, one of my biggest mournings was, like, because we had kind of done research, and we had found that, like, like, right now in this waiting period until we do see them, they're grown, and I don't know how it works. I don't know the logistics of it, but I know that we'll be able to raise him. Like, I know that and it says that, like, we get the joy, the pleasure, and the satisfaction, like, of nurturing them. I'm like, that to me is what I needed to hear. Like, doesn't take away the pain. Like even still today, like thinking about it, I still constantly think about like what our family would be like. It's hard for me to like think like, when people ask how many kids do you have, like how do I answer? Because he is still a part of our family, and our families have been great about that, like that he is still a part of our family. Like he is a grandchild, he's a child, but
it's hard to go through that with strangers or like
yeah,
acquaintances.
yeah.
And
How do you say that?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like because you can't, really say that, like it almost took away from like, okay, well maybe, like we don't get to be a part of his life, but right there, like that to me is confirmation enough to be like, okay, like we will get to raise him. We'll get that opportunity. And I don't know exactly how it works, but like I will get to hold my baby in my arms again, and like I will get to see, and I'll get to see him with Alea. Like I don't know and how that will work either and with our future kids, but I get to see that. And I've had two like other experiences with my grandparents, with my grandpa, and I'm not going to read it all. My grandpa found is from a book on the temples of the Most High, this poem, and it talks about a parent losing a little boy and how they're in pain, and it's a prayer to God to like, how could you let this happen? Someone so pure, but then God comes back of like, I have him safe, and you'll be able to be with him again and be able to raise him. So that poem was another confirmation to that. And then I've had another experience with my grandma Walker that she shared with me, where she's had confirmation that she knows that these babies that haven't had a chance to have their life on earth, they will be able to grow up with their families, and they're still here. They're still a part of our families, and they're aware of us. And hearing those stories that she's told just brought me so much joy, because I'm like, that's another, right? Like you hear kind of like when you said like line upon line, I'm like, okay, like I hear this and I'm doing research about this, and I'm hearing stories and hearing poems and different things that are confirming that over and over to me, that it's okay. Like you'll be able to be with him. So those experiences have been really amazing for me and our family.
Yeah, that was really special to me to hear about your grandma's experiences. And so there's been just so many miracles that have happened to us and for us. We've had such a big community that's wrapped their arms around us. They recognize that Sonny is our son and their grandson or their nephew, and it's just so special to us. Amelia, before we kind of end, I guess, this podcast, can you dive into what grief has taught us?
Yeah, I feel like this experience was different than anything I've experienced. I've experienced grief through losing both my grandma and my grandpa on different sides. But with Sonny, it was a kind of grief that like it was mourning something that I should have had but couldn't. It wasn't something I could experience now, so it was something that I had to rely really heavy on faith, kind of like we talked about, that God would fulfill his promises and that everything that we're learning is true, right? Like it's kind of like leaning on that, like we will be able to see him again. So I think for kind of this grief, I think it's taught me more than anything that Christ's atonement is more than just for our sins. And I think like I knew that I heard it in church, but I think like I felt it more, like for example, my experience with Be Still My Soul, like I felt that physical kind of relief from that. And I can't say that that's like why we had this experience. I can't say, like why we had to go through this, but I did learn a side of the atonement in Christ that can help us that I've never been able to feel before. And I feel like too, it helped our relationship. I think going through something like that with your spouse is more intimate than anything else. And I think you lean on each other and you learn and you grow together. And I think that's helped us in our relationship. And as parents, it still is hard. I think I didn't realize that until today. Like I knew it was hard, but I didn't realize how hard it was. Like kind of preparing to reopening this all. I've kind of talked about it more in a happy way, but diving back into the grief, I'm like, wow, I still am dealing with this, and it's not going to just go away. But just knowing that that's not all we have to dwell on is the grief, that we can kind of ride it in waves, and we can still have joy with that, and we can still continue to live our lives with that joy. And it will all work out in the end. Like I do know that, like as cliche as that sounds, like I do know that. So it's been a roller coaster, but more than anything, I'm just so grateful for this gospel. I'm so grateful for our families, like just how loved they've made us feel and how loved they've made us feel about Sonny, like how he's always still talked about. So yeah,
It's really special for us. And I just want to touch on, and then we can end, what you said a little bit earlier, that I don't think God made this happen to us or for us. I don't think he needed Sonny to pass away in order for us to get closer, in order for us to get closer to him, because there's 1,000,001 ways to get closer to God and get closer to our Savior Jesus Christ. Unfortunately, we just live in a fallen world where we have to deal with pain, we have to deal with sorrow. But no matter what, Christ is going to be there with us, and he's going to be there for us. So I guess I hope our story might help somebody. We've just been so blessed. We have our Savior right by our side, and our family and friends that have been, like Amelia said, so gracious and thoughtful to us. If you are listening to this right now and you're going through something similar and don't have family or friends to lean on, please reach out to us, and we'll be your family. We'll go through it with you because we're still on the journey. I'm not sure if it'll ever get really super easy. There's that song by Coldplay that always comes to my mind. It's Let Somebody Go, and it's just always stuck with me. It goes, I have it written down here. Now without you, what on earth am I to do? When I called the mathematicians and I asked them to explain, they said love is only equal to the pain. And that is absolutely true. But it becomes doable. Something you can talk about a little bit more easily, and something you can heal from, especially when you include the Savior. Thanks for listening.